Y'all, we are continuing on in our series called Under the Hood. This is our core values series where we're looking at what drives us as the Springs, what drives us and moves us forward as a body, as this section of the body of Christ. What moves us into our destiny and drives us towards our end. And last week I talked to you about Samuel chapter 1 dealing with Eli and Hannah and talked it's about 30 minutes, not real quick, but that Hannah was given an opportunity to take up an offense by Eli because Eli basically accused her of being a drunk when she's praying and asking for a child. And she had a choice to make. Pressure hit her, and we all know that when pressure is applied, what's in you comes out of you. And so Hannah had a pressure moment that was applied to her, and she had an opportunity to take up offense or to choose to honor. And she chose to honor. And she said, "No, my Lord, I am not drunk as you suppose, but rather I am distressed in my spirit in prayer. And don't look at your maidservant as if I'm a bad person," basically is what she says. Honors him on several different occasions. And we see that honor opened up the door of blessing to her life. Because out of honoring Eli, even though Eli wasn't a very honorable person, out of honoring Eli blessed her from his position of being the high priest, even though he probably didn't deserve to be there. Probably didn't. But he still held the office and the position, blessed her, and out of that blessing, Samuel came into being, and Israel got to see one of the greatest prophets ever in their history out of honor. We're talking about core values, the presence of God, the God's inerrant word, community, relationships, authenticity and integrity, and love and honor. And we've been talking about love and honor for the last few weeks. You go, why do you talk about it so much? Because it's that important. It really is that important. We need to learn to honor one another and as so doing, honor the Lord. So today we will talk about some of the roots of dishonor. Just for a little while. I won't take very long by the grace of God. It may be a two-parter. Who knows? Who knows? We'll look at some roots of dishonor. What sparks us to take up an offense? What pushes us, could you grab me water, please? What pushes us to take up an offense? And so we look at 2 Samuel chapter 6. Before we get there, I will get there, I just want to tell you a few of the stories that surround this leading into it. David is in the process of attempting to bring the Ark of the Covenant that they lost to the Philistines back to Jerusalem. And they're carrying it wrongly. Thank you, babe. There's a specific way that you were supposed to carry the ark. God actually ordained that you carry it. The priests carry it on their shoulders with a pole going through, holding it up so that when they walk, if one of them falls, there's 4 people. If one of them falls, they're still able to carry the presence properly. You see, the Philistines didn't know that. They're not going to behave as the Jews would. So what do? They throw the Ark of the Covenant into a cart, and is pulled by a donkey. And so here comes the Ark of the Covenant going on, and it's used to being carried on the shoulders, and in this instance it's carried in a cart, and they're riding on a rickety road, and boom, lo and behold, they hit a bump. The ark starts to shake back and forth, and what happens to Uzzah? Uzzah reaches out to try and steady the Ark of the Covenant. What happened to him? Oh, he did. Yeah, no. Talk about your all-time backfires, buddy. Why? You go, what's the deal? He took the presence of the Lord lightly. If they had just carried the presence properly to begin with, it would have never been an issue. But because they carried it in a wrong way, it gave opportunity for Uzzah to do something that was very disrespectful to God and reach out and touch what he was not supposed to be touching. And so Uzzah reaches out and touches it, and he falls dead. This got David's attention. And so David's trying to bring the ark back to Jerusalem, and he goes, I might want to test the waters on this one for a while. So before we bring the ark all the way back into the city, let's put it in this guy named Obed-Edom's house. And Obed-Edom goes, why me? What'd I do? And so they're like, how would you like to be the guy that the king says, like, okay, ark goes with you, and you just saw someone die touching it. And you're like, with me? How did I offend you in life so desperately that you want? But here's the thing. For 3 months it sat in Obed-Edom's house. Obed-Edom got blessed extensively by honoring the king and by honoring the King of Kings and choosing, even though there might have been a little bit of fear attached to the idea of it, choosing to house the presence of the Lord for the sake of the safety and for the sake of the blessing and being obedient to the king's command. And for 3 months, super blessed. Then David shows back up. David's a pretty smart dude. David shows back up, walks in, they go, look at how Obed-Edom is blessed. He goes, oh, he's being blessed? I think it's time to bring the ark back to Jerusalem. And so what does he do? He's like, tough luck, Obi. Let's get that ark and go. And so he brings the ark and he brings it back into Jerusalem. And he brings it with fanfare. He doesn't do a small little like solemn ceremony. He does it right, baby. He does it up. And he celebrates to the fullest extent, to the point where he's giving sacrifices every 6 steps and going on, and he's dancing with all of his might before the Lord. And that's where we pick up the scripture that I want to show you this morning. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 12 through 15. It says this. Now it was told King David, saying, the Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom, and all that belongs to him on account of the ark of God. Right? David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom and into the city of David with gladness. Well, yeah, because he knows he's about to be right. And so it was that when the bearers of the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he had sacrificed the ox and the fatling. And David was dancing before the Lord with all his might. And David was wearing a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel were bringing it up, the ark of the Lord, with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. Why the sound of the trumpet? Because the king is coming to his city. Isn't it interesting that when Jesus returns, he returns with the sound of a... Because the king is coming to his city. So, it then goes on to say these words, then it happened. Can we all say this? Dum, dum, dum. There it is. Then it happened. Here comes the pressure. Here comes the moment of pressure, and we're all about to find out what's going on in this situation. It says this, 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 16, it says, then it happened as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, David's dancing with all of his might, that Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord. And she despised him in his heart. She took up an offense. She was mad at him. A few things to note in this passage that I want you to see. Michal was referred to as the daughter of... She wasn't called the wife of David. She was called the daughter of Saul. Why? Because in this moment, she's manifesting Saul's character. She looks more like her daddy than she does like her husband. And so they relate it to Saul rather than to David. Internally, she's aligned herself with her family tendencies, if you will. And she took up an offense. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip over some stuff. So here's David, okay? David is showing honor to God and to the people. He didn't just honor the Lord. Out of his honor for the Lord, he actually honored the people. We'll see, check this out, right here actually. 2 Samuel 6:17 through 19. David places the ark in a tent for cover because he does not want the Lord's ark, the mercy seat, to be exposed where it does not have a covering. Because he loves God so much, he wants to honor him. We all know he's not the person to build the house for him, but he's good with a tent because he wants God to be honored. Then it says he offered God burnt and peace offerings. And then it says he blesses the people and gives each person 3 different types of cake. David had me a cake. Not just one type, not just 2 types. Do you know that, thank you. 3 is the number of completion. David knows what he's doing, man. David knows what he's doing. Oh, I'm going to see him one day and go, hey, cake man, hook me up. Gives him 3 different types of cake out of celebration for the ark's return. He loves God so much and he loves his people so much, he's going to bless them because it's in his heart to do so. Why? Because he is a product of honor. That man knows how to honor. If you ever look, listen, if you look at the story of Saul and you look at the story of David, you will see several different from the get-go. Think about this. God told Samuel that David was going to be king, right? Samuel goes to the house of Jesse, David's dad, and says, bring your sons in. One of your sons is going to be king. Jesse thought so little of David that he didn't even call him in to find out if it was him. That's how little amount of honor David was given in his own home. And so here he goes through 1 through 6 sons, and he's like, I don't understand. I've heard from God. It's not one of these. Jesse kind of, like the sheepish, well, I got another son. I didn't bother calling him in because he's out with the sheep. It's usually a job you'd give to a servant. He's out with the sheep, I did. Bring him in, lo and behold, who's the king? David. David was constantly shown dishonor by his own family. Jesse sends him with cheese. I know, it sounds funny. But he sends him with cheese and bread to go to the battlefront when they're fighting Goliath. Sends him out there to go. When he shows up, he starts to hear people railing against, he hears Goliath railing against God and defying God. And he shows up, and when his brother sees that David is there, what does his brother do? Eliab, what does he do? He looks at him and goes, you troublemaker, you're just here to see the war, you want to see death. What is your problem? No honor. Does this set David off in any way, shape, or form? No. David just goes, what did I do to you? Seriously. And he moves on and continues to inquire about what's going on with this whole situation and what will be done for the person who beats the giant. And so here he is in an opportunity where he is confident and secure in his relationship with the Lord. And his answer is this: who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he would defy the armies of the living God? Where's his focus? It's on his covenant relationship. Where was Saul's focus? Whenever you look at Saul and you see, all right, Saul gets called by Samuel and he says, you who is highly favored and is the desire of all Israel. You, Saul. And he goes, this is Saul's response. Me? But I'm from the smallest tribe. And I'm from the small family. We're not worth anything. Why would you even bother talking to me? He's manifesting insecurity. David is fascinatingly secure in his relationship with God. Saul, not secure at all. to the point of this, that Samuel actually prophesies over Saul and says to Saul, you will become a different person. You will leave this place, you will go and you will find the prophets, and you will prophesy with the prophets, and you will become a different person. And he goes and he prophesies with them, and he does become a different person. But you still see the tendencies inside of his life. When he goes home, he runs into his uncle, and his uncle starts asking him about, where were you? We were looking for the donkeys and all this different stuff. Where were you? You weren't at home. And he tells him, oh yeah, the prophet told me that somebody else found the donkeys and brought them home, but he never bothered to mention that he was prophesied to that he would become the king of Israel. Why do you think that is? Because he's got an insecurity problem. He's got a severe insecurity problem. Well, my uncle probably doesn't think a whole lot about me. So if I tell him this, he's not going to believe it. Insecurity. This is his issue. To the point where David kills Goliath, right? David becomes really prominent in the house of Saul. David is secure in his relationship with the Lord, and they start to sing a song about David and Saul. And the song goes like this. Saul has killed his thousands, and David his... Now here's the thing. The king had every opportunity and should have rightfully been the person that went and stood up to Goliath. Remember, it's not like Saul's a small man. He's literally a head and shoulders taller than everybody else. That's what Scripture says. He should have been the one that went out there. And we've got a 16-year-old, 5'6" kid with acne that shows up and goes, I'll take him on. Make this happen. And this is the first response out of Saul's mouth. He goes, you can't kill him. He's been training as a warrior from the time of his youth. You can't kill him. He's putting onto David his own insecurities. And he said, no, you can't do it. And David says, no. I fight for the living God. And I represent the covenant that we go out there, that uncircumcised field, I will strike him dead. Secure in relationship with God, insecure as a human being. And so, what happens when they sing the song? All of a sudden, Saul starts to look at David with a different eye set, and starts to look at him with a different perspective, and starts to see him as a threat rather than as a blessing to his kingdom. And so the insecurity manifests to the point that he literally tries to chase down David to kill him. He wants nothing more than to kill David, to wipe him out, because he represents a threat to his security. Because here's the thing. Insecure people try to make their environment secure. That's what they do. If you ever watch teenage relationships, for all the teenagers in here, I am sorry. But if you ever watch teenage relationships and you watch a guy, I can always tell if the guy is a secure guy or an insecure guy. Because if he's secure, they talk, they hang out with different people. If he's insecure, all of a sudden, when that girl starts to talk to another guy, he feels threatened and he wants to start controlling and putting his thumb on her and try to tell her what she can and can't do. Because he's trying to create a secure environment for himself so that he can feel safe, even though that is wicked and that is very wrong and very sinful. This is what insecure people do. They try to create environments that are secure. So, getting back to our original story, Michal is manifesting the insecurity that was passed down to her from her daddy. And she's looking, and she sees her husband dancing, celebrating God, praising the Lord, but that's not what she sees. She doesn't have eyes to see that. She looks out and she says, didn't the king distinguish himself in front of the maidservants today? Everyone and their dog was watching the ark return to Jerusalem that day. Michal only paid attention to the fact that David was dancing and the maid girls were watching him. Because her insecurity manifests and saw, that's a threat. What if he likes them better than he likes me? All these different people are watching it. David's not doing it for them. David's doing it for, he's doing it for the Lord. That's not what she sees. She sees massive, massive conflict in this. And she says, didn't you distinguish yourself before the Lord today? Or, sorry, before the maidservants today. Didn't you just make it so that you just showed out? Because as tradition goes, when he was dancing, it says that his outer garment came off, things of that nature. And so things that normal, regular peasant people would never get the opportunity to see, they got the opportunity to see through his worship that day. Do you understand that? And so she takes up offense and takes up hurt and takes up insecurity manifest and basically says to him, you acted like a fool. And your dancing was disrespectful to everyone. She took an offense to it. And look at David's response to the way that she responded. So David says to Michal, it was before the Lord who chose me above your father. Number one, snap. It was before the Lord who chose me above your father and above all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore I will celebrate the Lord. His focus isn't on the opinions of other people. His focus isn't on, he does not give two flips or two shakes of a rattlesnake tail about what anybody thinks about his dancing. Because it wasn't for them. It was for God. And so he looks at her, and you can almost see the, what? What? This doesn't make any sense. So chose me to appoint me over this, the ruler over all this thing. And he says this, I will be more lightly esteemed than this and will be humble in my own eyes in worshiping God. Another version says, I will become even more undignified than this. In other words, if you thought that was bad, just wait. If you thought that was something, you don't know me, girl. Because it's going to go throw down for Jesus time. I will become even more undignified. I will humble myself in my own eyes because he's worth it. And he says this, but with the maids of whom you have spoken, with them I will be distinguished. Why? Not because they're attracted to me, not because of any other physical attribute, but because my relationship is a beacon for what they can have. I am the king and represent the Lord to this nation, and I want to show them how to praise him. And so he says, I'll be revered in their eyes. I'll have respect with them. And then it says this, Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. I want you to see the parallel. Hannah, from 1 Samuel chapter 1, honored the man of God, prayed to the Lord, trusted God, focused her attention on the Lord, did not take offense because of people, because her eyes weren't on human beings, her eyes were on God. And as a result of that, the blessings of God opened up for her life because of her honor, and she bore a child that ended up changing history forever. Michal, in her insecurity, manifest her insecurity, disrespected and dishonored the man of God for worshiping in a way that he thought was honoring to God. She didn't like it. And so she was dishonorable in her heart. And as a result of it, blessing disappeared. Do you know what the root? Do you know what the root to dishonor is? Insecurity. It's insecurity. You go, what do you mean? Because here's the thing. Insecurity leads to jealousy, and jealousy leads to dishonor. Take an inventory of your lives. I'll take an inventory of mine. And look and see, when we start to get bent out of shape over things, it's because we're looking at what people did, and somehow it's touched our insecurity, and we become angry at them because we feel they don't have a right to do that. And that insecurity inside of us begins to breed dishonor, where we start to be mad, and then we start to open our mouths, and then we start to say things that are completely disrespectful and that are not representing Jesus very well. Are you with me still? We need to learn and understand how to deal with insecurity in us. Saul never did. Saul never learned, and as a result of Saul never learning how to deal with insecurity, he lost his kingdom. He was cut off. Literally, he could not wait. He was always concerned about the opinions of people. Always. To the point where you'll see, I think it's in 1 Samuel chapter 13, where you see that Samuel has told Saul, I'm about to go away. Chapter 12 is this whole thing, I'm about to go away, and then he's going to come back in 7 days type deal. And Samuel is sitting there. The Philistines are in attack. They're about to fight him. And they're gearing up because Jonathan went out the night before and fought the Philistines, and so they're going to retaliate. And so you can always depend on your children to get you into fights that you didn't expect you were going to be in. So here comes Saul. He's there. There's the sacrifice that they're going to offer for the blessing of the Lord. It is Samuel's place to offer that sacrifice. 7 days pass. Samuel has not returned to Gilgal like he said he was going to, and Saul starts to get nervous. And he looks and he sees people are fleeing, people are leaving, they're hiding in thickets, they're trying to get away. And it literally says that all of the people that were with him, his warriors, were trembling with fear. And when Saul saw this, and he quote unquote saw that Samuel had not come back yet, he got antsy because he didn't feel secure in that moment. And he wasn't trusting God, he was looking at people. And as a result of it, he went ahead and offered the sacrifice. And literally, while he's burning the sacrifice to the Lord, here comes Samuel walking up the hill. And Samuel says, "What did you do?" And he goes, "Oh, well, you weren't here, so I offered the sacrifice." And he goes, "That's not your place to do that. That's my place." And as a result of this disrespect and this dishonor that you have shown to the Lord and not doing things the way he wants to do it, you would have been established forever, but now your kingdom is going to be cut off. And there's going to be another one that raises up instead of you. Yeah, that's words that you really want to hear if you're insecure. Someone's going to replace you. Bye. And so there he is. His insecurity cost him everything. People, don't let your insecurity cost you everything. Don't let insecurity rob you of an opportunity to be blessed by God. If you're a human being in here, I guarantee you have had insecure moments. You've had things that you've had to deal with, whether it be your physical appearance, whether it be just internal turmoil, whether it be historical things that are visiting you again, whether it be all of those different things. People, it's time that we just knock out insecurity and become secure in Him. Because out of our security in Him, that is how we learn to honor. Out of our security in Him, that is how we learn to love. We can't do this on our own. We need Him. Bow your heads with me. One of our core principles here, one of our core values is honor. Love and honor put together. Because how do you learn to honor but to learn to love? I talk about this because I want you to be positioned to be blessed. I want you to have optimal opportunity to receive from God. How many of you in this house would admit to me and say, Jeff, I have gotten wildly offended and upset at people because insecurity manifested inside of me. And I took offense at what they had to say rather than just keeping my eyes on Jesus. Would you raise your hand real quick? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. How many of you would say in here, Jeff, I'm absolutely perfect? No, I'm just playing. How many of you would say, Jeff, I don't know how to deal with insecurity. I see that it's an issue. I see that it's controlling me to some degree. I see that it causes me to pick up offense, much like Saul, much like Michael, and to take that offense, but I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to stop this thing. Would you raise your hand real quick? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Let me tell you a secret. I guess it's not that much of a secret. We need to learn to love, because out of love comes security. When you think about your relationship with your children never have to worry. Your children never have to wonder, is everything going to be all right with mom and dad today? Actually, it's proven that children don't start to see their parents as human beings until about 25. They're not human beings. They are objects, and they exist for me. Why? Because they are so secure in their relationship with parents. When they see, they go, I know that pretty much I could drop kick my dad and he's still going to love me. I know that I can do all these different things and he's still going to have my back and he's still going to be with me. It has created a secure environment. Why? Because they love. If you want to know how to deal with insecurity, here's the secret. Grow in love. How do you grow in love? Talk to love. God is love. Spend time with Him. Read His Word. Pray. Converse with God. Dialogue with God. Don't make it a one-way conversation. Actually take time to listen to what He has to say. That's how we overcome insecurity. Is it easy? Not necessarily. Is it fast? Not all the time. Is it necessary? Yeah, sure, you betcha. It is. Stand with me if you would.